Okay, noting that it's 7:03 PM and it is June 7th, 2017, I'm calling the Board of Health meeting to order. So we have we have one variance request and 4 variance hearings scheduled for this evening, and we have a few other items on the agenda, but we also have items that are to be added because they were not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. So those items are...
Your microphones aren't working for us. They might be working for the broadcast, but they're not working for us.
Okay, is that any better? Do you hear me?
I have to pull really, really close to. I noticed that last time.
And is that better?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not now.
Am I?
No. How's your switch?
It's green.
Okay, try now.
Okay, is this any better?
No.
How about if I talk loud for a bit? Oh, now it's coming. Okay.
Stereophonic sound.
All righty. Okay, so of these items not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting are: 1, review and approval of invoice submitted by Ethan Mascoop. 2, we have a revision to a previously approved plan for 198 South Main Street. 3, ZBA petitions for hearings on 6/15/17. So that'll just be us reviewing what they've sent out, document. And 4, recreational day camp for children, Sweet Meadow Camp, it's for approval. And do I need to add this sign warrants and payroll
Yeah,
to the?
yeah, you
Okay,
can.
and then 5, sign warrants and payroll. So do we have a motion to approve adding those to the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So let's take those items in order. So we have an invoice from Ethan Mascoop, and it's for software that I believe allowed him to print out texts. Is that? Okay. In order for him to respond to a public records request. And so it's for $29.99. Any comments? It's a public records request, so anything? Do we have a motion to approve payment of this
Sure.
$29.99?
Motion to approve payment of the invoice.
Second.
Okay, so I have to say I'm not sure. I assume he would not have otherwise purchased this if not for the public records request, whereas sometimes software someone might use for lots of different things, but this doesn't seem to be the case here. So, okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then, so revision to a previously approved plan. What is it that we haven't?
Mark will
Yeah,
present that.
okay, that's what I thought. Excellent. So we have ZBA petitions. Are you melting? All right, so let's see, the ZBA. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see these. One is for a special permit to maintain a professional office in a residence.
That's a renewal.
Oh, okay. All right, so then at some point, I would assume it was reviewed and that the residence didn't involve.
Right.
Professional office would have nothing to do with food, I'm assuming, or
Right.
any kind of professional dog washing or something like that, but, okay. And the other is a canopy, so. Over a fuel dispenser. Islands. So any particular comments you feel we need to send to ZBA on these?
So how often is the renewal on the office? Is it every year, or is it every 3 years, or?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
If it says on the
See if it says anything here. There have been,
20.
Oh,
it seems 05,
2012.
07,
Yeah, so every-
12. Yeah,
Well, actually, that's every 5 years.
5,
Okay.
7, 12. Well, not an even number, but, I mean, equal
Yeah,
number,
right.
rather.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it that I can see. So, okay, so we can just note receipt. We don't need to send them a message. Okay, so,
Would you please take up Meadowbrook?
Meadowbrook, Sweet Meadow?
We're not the,
Yes, I was just looking at the time. We'll take it up, and if we need to stop and pick it up again, only because it could get a little complicated. So, all right, so,
Let me, before you even start, let me point out that this is such a contentious item that I'm surprised that it would be coming under the heading of not anticipated and not in advance on the agenda, because I think you're well aware that there are a significant number of abutters and interested parties that you would want to have explanation and take exceptions to some of this, to this license. And I don't believe you're serving the public well by having it be something that does not show on a previous agenda, and then discussing it and apparently possibly voting on it at this meeting. Do you take my point, please?
yes,
Thank you.
I do. Thank you. So, I'll explain a little bit how we got here, and then we can talk about it. So they submitted an application, it had deficiencies, they've been working on that, and the agent spent 4 hours there today, reviewing their records and going over it with a fine-tooth comb, as we found we need to do there. And finished that review, has some recommendations here regarding a few things on the side to be done, but part of the issue is that they're looking to open June 12th, which is Monday, I believe. So it's before we have another meeting. So that's part of the reason it ended up here, because the original application needed a lot of work. So, so I don't know. What do people think?
I guess, I was at one of the meetings, I think, previously, where there was a discussion of certain discrepancies and inappropriate practices. So it does seem like a watchful eye is warranted. And it seems like several of these conditions actually haven't been met yet or complied with yet. So I think it may be a little unrealistic to contemplate that everything's going to be in order by Monday. So and I guess I'm a little uncomfortable approving things that, or considering voting on things that they haven't met even the variance criteria or provided some of the information yet. So I would, probably recommend that they get everything in order first, get the inspections done that are required, meet the conditions that are outlined in here, and if they need variances, then we need them specified so we can review them and think about them. I'm confident that they can probably achieve all that, but I guess I'd be reluctant to sort of have a vote preceding all those actions.
Right, there are times for various, what have we done it for? Approving plans subject to receipt of, so that was the idea here in terms of having the fire department complete its inspection, that their permit wouldn't be released until that happened, just to clarify that, but I appreciate the other points. So including, I would prefer that they come and tell us about a variance, but I don't believe that that's been requested in the past, and so that's where the
No,
wrinkle
and
is
I
that it's a bit of a change, is that it's been a long-standing procedure for them.
Yeah, I
So-
spoke to Ethan about that today, and I provided him minutes from 2014, when the board approved, after having DPH agree to the hand washing and the drinking water in the manner that they're doing it. But I explained to Ethan it wasn't handled as a variance, although there was DPH review, and the board did vote to allow it the way it was. So,
Right. So it's not a new condition, he's just, I don't recall
He
if he
just
reviewed it
called it a
last year, but yeah,
variance, yeah.
right, so that's a question as to whether we want to treat it as a variance or a continuation of
Current
past.
practice, yeah.
So, right, it is raising a question, and unfortunately, it is raising it here at the 11th hour, so as we're about to look at that.
But it sounds like
So-
it's sort of the 11th hour in part because of the
Could you
applicant.
move your microphone closer?
Sure. How's that? Good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. It sounds like this is an issue in terms of the timeliness of the submission by the camp. And so I think it's sort of trying to find the balance, thinking about not putting an undue burden on the families that would be impacted by the camp being impacted. At the same time, I think Peter's point of having fair notice to abutters and public notification that it was going to be discussed so they had an opportunity, particularly if we're sort of saying it feels a lot like a variance, then it seems like we'd want to follow the same policy to give them their voice. And so I don't know if, are there any options to do something on a temporary basis or sort of provisional basis to then allow full discussion at the next board meeting, for example? Or would that still need to be triggered by Sweet Meadow actually initiating the request for a variance and identifying that this is in fact a variance?
Well, and whether we call it a variance
Right.
or something else, or full review and approval. There are always these brain teasers.
Well, for me, it's-
Again, it would be nice, right, to not be trying to figure this out as we're sitting here, and we're up on our
Yeah.
time of the next thing. So we're going to
Yeah.
move this and come back to it.
Okay.
So maybe we'll digest something in the meantime. Comment before we move on?
A quick comment. It is a difficult situation, and there's a lot of public that can be putting at disadvantage to not allow this. I'm sure it's within your purview to issue a 30-day license, subject to review. And, you would then have the opportunity for all of those issues to be addressed, and if necessary, close the place. But I'm saying, let me suggest that there are various ways you might proceed that might satisfy everyone. Thank you.
Right, so, and that's basically what you were
Yeah.
mentioning.
mechanism.
And then, as usual, we don't have town council sitting right here with us, but we could make the decision and do it for 30 days as a possibility. But we will come back to that, because now we have a variance request from Abbey Road, variance from 2, Section 17.3G for units 13, 14, and 15 for a new well, and I think we have the water results in here. Okay. And do we have Ethan's latest comments just about sodium and,
probably did not print them. They
Okay.
came in late today.
yeah, okay. Just want to make sure I'm not missing it. Then I will, darn. I believe he noted that the sodium is elevated, nitrates are elevated, and then we'll look at this variance, but maybe let's start with the variance, and then we'll get on to the kind of totality of it. Would you like to present, or shall we just, it's a similar issue to the past, but,
Basically laid it out
Yeah.
yes, okay. So-
And is this essentially an identical situation to the variance discussed at the last meeting?
One thing I would, as a kind of an addendum to the variance that you approved last time, subsequent to your granting the variance, I actually cleared it.
Okay.
So
Oh.
it turned out I didn't need the variance because it cleared.
It went to
In
non-detect.
this case, I have someone who wants to move in next week, someone from town. And this is very hard to flush because I can't, this is a well that's in use on 3 occupied homes. And so that the domestic water and sprinkler system are all in one thing. So I can't flush all night. I have to
Because
flush
then-
just, so it's
yeah.
been a lot more
But, yeah.
difficult to flush this. And I am down to 0.6.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
One, what is it, 0.1 of the non-detect.
Right.
Oh, what? All right,
And it
just-
did go down, it basically halved in 2 months.
In a month, I think, but yes.
Yeah, March 23rd and,
And that's been my experience.
Right.
With all of these situations is it just takes painfully long to clear.
Okay, does anyone have any comments? It's just going to look at the old minutes, or the prior minutes.
I mean, I guess I just kind of reference the last meeting's minutes where it seems like we discussed it in some more detail in terms
Right.
of,
Yeah.
this was to achieve goals that we described as being consistent with the board, you know, to kind of deal with the low bacterial count, treat the well. This is a sort of foreseeable consequence that seemed to pose a limited, if any, health risk. And so it sounds identical, so.
All right, I just wanted to say, I know we had a condition about subsequent tests. I just wanted to mimic that as a motion.
oh, we did say that. About subsequent, I think at that time, you had talked about the more recent tests, but you hadn't yet
In this
provided
case, that's
them.
not relevant.
But in this case, you
Okay.
actually, it's,
I've
she,
provided
he has
all.
2 rounds.
I've provided
Oh,
all
okay.
the data.
So it's a
Perfect.
little different. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yep.
All right, so would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we, how do I word it? Contemplate the variance for the presence of chloroform at de minimis levels in these tap samples.
Okay.
I approve of the variance for the detection of chloroform at de minimis levels in these tap samples
Okay.
at Abbey Road.
Okay, and I would note, why can't I find it?
Do you want it? I have the,
I'm looking at the right. Okay, so. There we go.
yeah, there, she, yeah, so that.
Okay.
He already provided.
And I'd note that it's also because we're recognizing that it's likely that the contaminant, the chloroform, is present as a result of disinfecting the
Correct.
well.
Correct.
So I'll amend that motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor of the amended motion? Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, back to Sweet Meadow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, for certificate of compliance. So, all right, so that's unfortunately the email that I don't have memorized. I believe you need to do some sort of sodium notification?
So the situation, Darrell, is that we're not to the deep recording level of 28, but we're above the notification level of 20, where I think
20
is
24,
yes.
Right, it's smack in the middle. So what that means is that we have to notify any occupants. Well, we don't have any occupants at the moment, and of course, as soon as we have occupants upon closing, at closing, I will make the notification and, of course, deliver it to the board as required by the rules. But I technically can't notify an occupant if we don't have one.
Okay, so, and then, so is there a specific form that you would receive that on?
It's just a letter
Okay,
that he would provide to
Future
the
occupant.
occupant.
Which obviously
And,
I'll have to do once I have it.
so we have a chicken and egg, the person
Yeah,
can't
that's-
move in until they
yeah,
have
you-
that, and
right,
they
we
won't
typically don't
be
give
someone
it-
to receive it until they move in.
Yeah.
Make a
So.
suggestion to solve the chicken and egg issue, is that it says that you have to notify the owner or the occupant, I believe, is it or? I believe it's or. I'm the owner, I'm happy to write a letter myself and provide it for your files, which meets your requirement. The owner has been notified.
Now, I would say, yes, that meets the requirement in one sense, but it certainly doesn't meet the intent. So that's, it would be nice to resolve the intent
Yeah.
side as well, so,
I mean, if you want, I have a purchase and sale agreement with two parties.
okay, how about if you do,
I'm happy to write them a letter.
Provide that.
Can I write an email to them and copy you? Would that be sufficient?
I don't know, have you gotten emails for this sort of thing, or it's always been
Yeah,
a letter? Probably a,
We don't have many of them.
yeah,
I don't think it's ever been an email, but I don't know if that really matters.
okay. So,
'Cause it sounds like this is really just notification, which an email
Yeah.
certainly would constitute.
Right.
I
I
think
mean,
as
it
long
would
as they're sort
provide
of clearly
proof.
identifiable as the recipient of the email,
Yeah.
like if it's
Do
like.
they have to
just-
sign and indicate
Yeah.
that they have been notified, or is that not a requirement?
It-
It just says you have to
Right.
provide notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
so,
I would
Um,
think
okay,
that would be okay.
all right. So how about that? And copy yourself on the email, and that way you will have notified the owner and,
Two birds.
right?
It's like three birds.
I'll copy Health at Sherborn.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
And that will resolve this issue.
Okay.
That's great.
And then, you know, at some point, there are nitrate levels that are higher than we see elsewhere in town. They're 6 something around there, so it's moving up, and it's just one of those things, again, that it would be good for the future residents to keep an eye on, because the septic isn't functioning that much yet, so,
Correction to what you just said. You said it's moving up, and actually it tested at 8, which the MCGL is 10. It tested at 8 in 2014, and now it's tested at 6,
6.6.
4, and 6. So I actually would say over 2 years,
It's-
it's down.
okay,
I just want to correct the record.
Oh, okay.
with that.
All right.
I think that's irrelevant.
okay.
If it were rising, I think it's a little.
It's still something to keep an eye on, because once that septic is being fully utilized, there, you know, it's just, again, it's a sensitive population who's moving in there, and it's elevated levels, and I just recalled in the early 2000s when Mass DEP was concerned that 3 was showing up as a number in the downtown area, and they invited many selectmen, groundwater protection, Board of Health, a number of other people to meet with them to discuss what we were going to do about 3, even though 10 was the limit. So, so it's on their radar, as something that's worth keeping track of, so, okay, great.
So are we, just to, so I don't get hung up in something tomorrow morning, were you able to get you have the conditional certificates of compliance for both 17, 18?
I have.
13, 14, 15, they're prepared,
Yes.
and do we believe that
I've-
he's going to sign it for us? Or
He said he would be in next either Monday or Tuesday.
that I can wait for the paper copy until Monday or Tuesday, but I really need the building inspector to be notified that
Yeah, I can notify the building inspector that the board
Yeah, has okayed it,
is
and they
okay,
will.
and we're just waiting for the signature.
yeah.
Okay.
The paper copy is not as important as the notification to the regulatory body.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And then,
So that will be for 17 and 18 and 13, 14,
13,
and
14.
15 after I get the letter, the email.
Okay, so just to clarify, so 13, 14, and 15, well, I can only notify, I haven't told you the third one, so I can notify the 2 people who are known buyers. I'll notify myself, and that will be the last step for 13, 14, 15.
Right,
And then
yeah. I-
17 and 18, we recorded the sodium
Oh, that's right.
recording today, but it doesn't actually show up with the barcode
Yeah.
until tomorrow.
Yeah,
So I'll provide that to Ellen tomorrow,
and then, once we get that,
and then you can notify the building inspector that
Yeah.
we're good for all of those.
yeah, fine.
Okay, all right, good.
Thank you all so much, and thank you, Matt, for driving up. It doesn't go
Yeah.
unnoticed from this guy here.
It was a beautiful day for a drive.
That's the spirit. Okay, so we have a variance hearing, 7:30, and it is for septic replacement at 23 Corsebrook Road. And do we have any abutters? No, okay.
Okay, so this is one that there was an issue
Yes.
with the abutter notification.
Okay, and is this the one where one person was missed?
This is
Is
the one
where,
This is the plans
Okay.
were revised, and all of the abutters were notified only of the local variances before the plans were revised, and the variance request letter was revised to include local upgrade approval, which, by the way, there's an additional $50 fee, because the fee with local upgrade approval is $150. They only paid for the local variances. So I did I put a memo together for the board. I did talk to Claire Golden, and it was her opinion that the abutters should be re-notified and the hearing rescheduled. She recommended that I talk to town council. So yesterday, I did talk to Darrell before, because I can't just call town council. Darrell agreed to try to get the approval. I talked to the assistant town administrator, got approval to call town council, and then when I called, she was there. So I did talk to Barbara, and Barbara was very clear that the abutters should be re-notified. But she said revised plans have been submitted, additional variances have been requested. The abutters need to be re-notified, so. And then she did indicate that the board should get an extension from the applicant for the original date, of the original plan. And I explained to her that the plan had been revised. But even with that, in order to provide time to re-notify, the hearing would have to be continued to the meeting in July, which is still beyond the 45 days, so we would have to get an extension. And she said if the applicant doesn't extend, we should call her, Barbara, right away, but she said it would be in the applicant's best interest to extend it, because otherwise the board should just disapprove the plan.
I mentioned this to Paul, and he said, that's why you guys, we
Yeah.
always put this, any other Sherborn
Yeah.
state regulation.
And I mentioned that to Barbara, and she doesn't think that's really,
My son actually laughed at it.
yeah.
A little bit of a catch-all.
That was an idea of a previous board member, and the board has used it for local variances. I don't know if it's ever been used for.
No, I don't think,
If
it's
it
been used for
has,
that
it's been-
8.01, the two that are very
Well,
similar and things
Or
like
the-
that.
or the
and
bed,
yeah,
to allow a bed.
Yeah, but nothing like this, and that's why, so we tried
And the fact
quite a
that
number of things.
the abutters weren't notified that there are state variances. That was.
So that's why we went to Mass DEP, or you, really.
Yeah.
I used the royal we, Ellen, contacted Mass DEP to find out, since it was,
So basically, we say there's
Variations
a
to
local
theirs.
variance and what we communicate to the abutters. In fact, other variances were identified that wasn't communicated, so
Right.
they may say,
Right.
wait a second, you never
Right.
told me there was a state variance.
Right.
I haven't been
That's it.
notified, I have strong feelings.
Yes, and that's what Barbara was concerned with.
Right.
that it was, and
Beyond
I think
local.
Mass DEP, they claim that they would never do it, even if
Yeah.
3 were needed and 2 were included, that they wouldn't do that. So we did try to find
Because I even
another
talked to
option,
Daryl
but,
about that sentence.
Yeah.
yeah, and so we may not be able to do that.
I guess you're the last to know.
So, but you should, so,
Yes.
would
Yeah,
you,
so we will,
I have an extension form,
Okay.
so I can give this to you. We do need to have, it's not a form, it's just a,
I mean, that's definitely a form, it's got lines.
yeah. But we do need her signature on that.
$50 more.
And $50 because there's now state variances.
Okay.
But,
right, and the July looks like the most realistic. We were talking about the numbers, and really, those notices would have to go out now.
All right.
And then the chances of actually getting the responses in time
Yeah.
is not good because it's 14 days to the next hearing.
Yeah.
15 days is what the post office will give. So if somebody was on vacation, you run the risk
Okay.
of somebody being gone and it not coming back and not having that statement from the post office that said 15 days had passed and we tried.
I can deliver it twice.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so that's why we were thinking July, that way it goes smoother.
Okay.
I can tell you, it can be 7:30 on July 19th.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're going to learn a lot about camp.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So,
Are we
okay.
back to that?
Yes, all right, so back to the camp.
I guess I'll just make a comment. I'm concerned about their record keeping in general, and the fact that they're, just based on certain issues that came up last year, that they really didn't start planning more in advance, and certain things like keeping track of children's health forms, and maybe someone has a peanut allergy, and things getting lost in the shuffle. I think it's just broadly indicative of not the most proactive and
Yes.
attentive record keeping, and I think that's another thing that's just giving me some discomfort.
Right, and so what we've been trying to figure out but haven't found an easy solution, but if somebody wants to take this on as a pet project, because there doesn't seem to be a good precedence in town for setting up, and I've been talking to various departments within the town for months and months about this, and the issue is, and this was raised by the agent and the board, prior board, of having more oversight of what they're doing and many more inspections, and frankly, weekly, probably several visits a week would be ideal, just to check that things are as they should be. But that's a lot of cost for the town, and when I talked about this with advisory, it was their opinion that we really should be recouping those costs. Because compliance shouldn't be the burden of the town.
If not, but for their history
Yes,
of violence.
right, and it's an important thing. We're talking about children.
Safety, yeah.
So it's not that, everyone should be safe, but children don't have the same ability to
Right.
evaluate the situation that they're in. So I think we have to be extra cautious. So I've talked to various folks again about how do we even set that up? How do you negotiate that where you're charging more because of past performance and the need that we feel to check more, and how do you arrange for that? How do you price it?
Could it be conditional approval, and that this permit is contingent upon, the first 2 weeks, twice a week inspections at a cost of X, and then, if no violations are found, or full compliance is observed, then it could maybe go to weekly thereafter, and so you could make it sort of a contingent or conditional permit that just has certain requirements.
Right, and so Ethan and I had talked a bit about that in terms of whether after some period of time, and if things are looking good, that, right, you could reduce the requirements, but how to let them know what those extra costs would be up front, and then do we even have the authority to do that? And I have sent notes and left messages with
Council,
town
yeah.
council, and I haven't received any information back that kind of told me how or whether that could be done. So, yeah, and just there have been too many other things coming up to spend all the time chasing after that. But, so, in a way, it sounds like maybe, given the situation that we have at the moment, maybe a possibility is we're on the path of issuing something that's interim.
Yeah.
And that's how we proceed until we figure out how we're going to charge better, because really 4 hours for the health agent to spend there today going over in detail records and finding things in some of the reports that affects the role that one employee can have at the camp. That they weren't aware that that's how to read the reports in a certain way. So that's significant kind of finding and important, and not that other people might not make the same mistake, but it took quite a bit of time to do that checking. So that at the moment the town is paying for. So,
I would think, though, that probably the first one is the lengthiest, because you're seeing issues for the first time and
Right.
explaining things to the owners and operators, and so I would think that it would.
well, but this has gone on for a number of years, and so apparently at most camps it's more of a spot check, but this, because of the history, got a very thorough check, which is important, and I don't, regret the town putting in that investment, but it would be nice to not always be covering the cost, so.
And so that difference between an in-depth spot check and a period of monitoring and sort of more participatory involvement.
Right. So, does anyone have an idea of how you'd like to craft, if you want to, or make a motion for something that's interim until our next meeting, perhaps, and, yes?
I just have a question as a resident and a parent of 2 small children who could easily go to this camp. They're already collecting money for, cost $700 and some a week for kids to go to the camp. There's a no refund policy. And I'm just curious, like, as a potential consumer, how they could even accept applications if they don't have the requisite licensing or approval to actually run a camp, and how are parents or any consumer or client notified that they are not up to code, like whatever codes are required by the Board of Health and maybe other agencies? And I don't know what is in Ethan's report, so I don't have the bullets, but as a parent that you send your child, drop them off, I think most people, whether it's you're going to 10 Acre Links or other camps in and around town, the assumption is that they've met all of the requisite requirements. So even an interim, like 30-day kind of pass, like that, as a parent, like makes me uncomfortable knowing that I could leave a 4.5-year-old and a 7-year-old at a camp that has not met the requisite requirements of adult in town.
And I mean, I think a butter issue, in particular for this location, it is problematic. I mean, the DS schools are not out till the 21st. I don't know the age of these campers, but a lot of even daycares and things typically follow the school schedule. And our next meeting is also on
The
the
21st.
21st. So what I was wondering is, could we maybe just take a time out with them and say, here, there's a number of things that we need you to get, complete, and inspections, and if you need a variance, or we have to approve some kind of formal past practice that still meets the performance standards, even though it might not meet, the letter of the law, and have them do that, and then have an opportunity for abutters to be also present at that meeting and provide any kind of discourse or concerns that they have, and, have them just hold off until then? I don't know, again, like, how problematic that
I think
would
it's
be
like
for the
like
parents.
for me, it's like picturing the balance of like suddenly, like my kiddo plans changed, like if I was one of the 15 and I'm sort of saying like, wait a second, now I'm sort of faced with this other set of challenges. Like, I think this is one of those places where as a board, it's a no-win situation, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the glamour's at. But I think it's like trying to figure out, like, you want to have a good faith feeling that we have a board. It's there to make sure my kids are safe. And if they're not safe, I need them to give me a pause so I can make those choices, as opposed to a patina of total compliance and then saying, oh, wait, this is sort of provisional. And there's no good way for us to communicate it. And I don't think as a board we can kind of give legal advice for what recourse about refunds would exist or those pieces. But, for me, the biggest piece is I think it's important for community members to know that we're talking about it, so that the butters have a voice, so that parents whose kiddos may be in the camp know that it's on the agenda and can make their own informed choices. And so, I don't feel strongly between saying we're going to take a pause because we think this is a really important issue and do it on the 21st, or do something provisional for a short period of time. I don't have a strong preference between those. I think both kind of take different sets of trade-offs. I think ultimately what we're saying is that this particular, I think when we talk about regulations, it needs to be blind to the organization. So if this group has faced challenges in the past, we should make regulations that would cover that, because that's an area we've identified. But I think it should be separate from them, and that's part of what I struggle with, the sort of governance of, how to recoup costs that are a de novo structure we're introducing. At the same time, if we have people or organizations that continue to struggle, trying to figure out how can we help change those behaviors so that the town isn't paying for them, I think is a fair thing to do. And so from my standpoint, I would be comfortable with either approach of either saying we're going to do something to carry us through to the 21st to kind of cover the first 15 kiddos, recognizing that this is a historical pattern of practice and that it is not without risk, but it's risks that have been previously determined to be tolerable, versus saying we're just going to take a pause, like your ducks aren't in a row. June 8th is no different than it was 4 months ago, and all of these issues could have been addressed then, and they weren't. And so I think both are reasonable approaches. It sounds like, Lisa, you're pretty uncomfortable with.
I'm vacillating. I mean, I think going forward for next year, I definitely would say that we need to set up clear dates and milestones, that they're going to be providing information that if you want to have an opening day of X, here's when you have to have filed this, you have to have the abutter notification, we have to have a meeting, and lay it out for them, because it seems like there's just been a lack of planning. So I think we can help them.
Yeah, I'll give some credit to Ethan, because he's recommended that starting early, so we've been trying to find a way to get going since January, really, is when we initially thought of trying to get them set up, so we wouldn't end up in this situation. But again, resources have been stretched. So, and Mark, if you can weigh, so one thing I thought it'd be helpful for you to weigh in. So when Ethan wrote this up and says ready, I mean, he, again, spent a lot of time and informed them about the one employee who allegedly just works in the office, but who should not be working with kids, and made that very clear. So, and then part of the issue is if the fire department can do their inspection before the 12th. So it would be provisional. And then the occupancy certificate, let's see. The issue about the water supply hand washing and the use of the porta potties has been approved in the past, but he's suggesting, and maybe this is something you could also talk about, just a more formal, or a repeat of the formal process that took place years ago. So anyway, but if you can comment, even though Mark hasn't worked on it, he's certainly worked with camps in the past.
Diane, I think, did it
So-
last year, and Ethan was this year. I have consulted with Ethan to some degree on the pool. I don't know if the pool's a factor here.
Not right now.
But what I
So-
would suggest is that, we've done this on other permits, is that the board sign the permit, and it's not to be issued until the agent is determined that whatever needs to be corrected has been corrected. That way, it gives some leeway in between meetings to let the agent who found the issues make sure they're corrected prior to issuing the permit. If they can work very fast and they're looking for June 12th, well, so be it. That would be Ethan's final decision. You've done that with food permits and other permits where they're signed but not issued. Beach permit, for example. We get the permit approved by the board conditional to the inspection and compliance as determined by the agent. So I'd suggest that, and I would suggest that as it relates to the fee, if there's increased fees, maybe the board, you would have to have a hearing to change your fee schedule. But I would suggest no different from any additional re-inspections of food facilities due to the lack of paying attention to the first report. I'd suggest to the board you get a very proactive fee schedule for additional inspections. And
Okay.
each inspection, you could figure out the cost and time, so we meet the requirements of user fees. As there's a case in Cambridge, you can't go over, but you definitely can collect what your user fee is based on.
And not to exceed, sort of.
You can't exceed what, you can't say we're going to charge like $3,000.
It's not punitive charges, it's
Right.
compensatory charges.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
basically saying, I can cover the cost but not punish you with fees.
Exactly. There was discussion on tobacco fees at one time, on the cost of what tobacco causes to people's health, but that, we realized at the local level, we could not do under our jurisdiction. But that's what I would suggest is, maybe
So,
consider that.
all right,
put
follow the
in-
model of the
yeah.
food inspections. And so for that kind of fee change, we'd need a hearing, and that lead time is roughly,
Well, it's,
once we have the language of the whatever change we
Yeah.
propose.
we could probably do it in July, if you
Oh.
wanted to.
I was trying to, when is our first July meeting? That's what I-
There's only one meeting in July.
Okay, and
So
what-
it's the 19th,
Okay.
July 19th, and then August, whatever the third Wednesday is in August.
I still like the idea, though, of making it
I'd still want interim.
an interim
Yeah.
and contingent, because we still have the abutter issue as well. So we
Right.
have kind of two separate.
The butter, I was curious.
Well, Peter was saying, since we just got this today, so it's one of those less than
Wasn't on.
48 hours in advance,
Okay.
so it wasn't posted. So that doesn't mean, once we do post it as an agenda item, that everyone will know, but
Right.
There's nothing in the camping codes that requires a butter notification.
No, this is an open meeting agenda.
I see.
yeah, just so
So-
people would know that
I
it's,
see, so if an abutter was
An
curious,
issue.
because we know there are other, well, the board has seen the abutters here for other issues, and that was a long 3-5-year issue that became more of a civil matter, not something the
That,
board
that
was
was
dealing
about the
with.
commercial use of. the
Yeah,
property.
so what I would suggest is, just make sure if, you do have another hearing on this, that anyone in the audience should know that the license isn't based on abutter input.
Approval.
It's really the agent's input, not the
Yeah.
abutters.
Yeah.
Okay, unless.
I mean, it is, yeah,
Seems-
right, the issues are different than some of the other ones that we,
There's other areas like septic where abutters definitely have input, it affects their well or whatever. So-
right. And are you able to address the question about camp, again, it's the business side that I know nothing about. I can see that if they did not have a permit, what we're trying to,
Try again.
Sorry, I was just
I'm not
looking
sure
at the
either.
dates.
Sherry, I want to know the answer.
She'll figure out the fee schedule.
That's it, we could have just
Figure out the fee schedule.
No, that's not great, we'll be there.
Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So if the camp did not receive a permit and tried to operate, then we would shut it down and
Yeah,
go
you
over
would-
and shut
I
it
would
down.
suggest that
But in
happen.
terms of people knowing, when they're signing up kids for a camp,
They should have a
that
provision.
assumes all this due diligence on their
Yeah.
part, but they wouldn't necessarily know what to
If a tornado
ask
was
for.
striking us, unfortunately, I would wish that never on anyone. I've worked through a tornado. But if something like that was to occur where they had an early release because the permit was being pulled, they have to have a plan for that, and hopefully they do. So it shouldn't interfere
okay.
with pulling a permit. And I would advise them immediately of what their needs are, and, if they're not going to finalize the needs that the agent has found, not needs, but the violations of the
Requirements, yeah.
camping codes, then they should be notified, don't even bother opening your doors.
Well, no, I believe he found that, except for that one employee who, again, If they
They have
have the
not been
function that they
closed, or-
claim, that they are okay in that function, but not okay. They just weren't aware that they
Limited function.
absolutely couldn't let that person. And it's,
Age, whatever, sure, no, that's, whatever the case may be, and the
Of course, I'm
camp
making it
counselor
sound
should
more
be,
dastardly
camp
than it
director
is,
should
but-
be on top of this. The board relies heavily on the camp director, who has to be certified to run an appropriate camp and meet all these state codes. Dave Williams at the state is the liaison for us to handle camps, and Steve, I forget Steve's last name, but the state takes it very serious, too, and would expect that if they can't meet the code, then they shouldn't be open.
Require so if we did a provisional permit, could we require notification of parents as part of that condition? Because I think that goes to the question of sort of, I'd want to know, if this
Right.
is up in the air, I can make choices about whether those risks are tolerable, I can explore more with the camp, and certainly there'd be no more compelling conversation than with my consumers about, well, I need this to be different next year, because that was not
right.
what I'd want.
So, okay, if we asked that, how would we
So what if you did a...
verify how that was done, whether it's a physical posting?
So I think there are a couple of things.
There, or-
I think you, so just kind of spitballing, I think if you said, like, the goals I want to accomplish are parental notification and awareness, while not disrupting childcare plans for families that may say, this is a really big problem for us to know about this, even though it may be the camp's fault or issue, like, I'm still really stuck. And so I want people to be able to make informed choices, and I also want kind of invested community members to know that we're talking about it, to advise the board, give us their insights to make sure we're identifying and kind of creating the safest environment possible. So could we do something that provides coverage until the June 21st meeting with a sort of temporary permit conditional upon satisfying these requirements, and the issuance dependent on Ethan saying, I'm comfortable with this, and requiring notification of those first 15 kiddos, for your notification, there were some outstanding issues, this is a provisional permit, post that, request that it be sent, or require that it be sent home. I don't know that we need signatures back. I think if it's posted, that's something Ethan can visually verify and say, this
Yep.
is here, and it certainly lets those parents know this will be heard on June 21st, so if they have questions or concerns about their kids' continued involvement, they can then say, great, I want to hear what the scoop is, because we've got a bunch more summer ahead of us. I'm now fully informed.
Yep.
Does that kind of pass the sniff test?
Yes, I like that, and you know what? Let's get back to that, because Eric, welcome back. Okay, so it's a little after 7:50, and we have a septic replacement expansion variance hearing for 6 Brook Street. Any abutters? Okay, good night.
Good evening, I'm Eric.
Oh, before we begin, have we received all the green cards?
Yes.
Fabulous, okay. Take it away.
This is,
Brook Street. If you're not familiar with it, it's off of Western Avenue. This is the second house on the right. This is the road that connects to the house.
I jogged that.
This is an existing three-bedroom, single-family home. She's selling the house, they wanted to add a bedroom. The existing septic system consists of a cesspool over here, and a traditional type septic system here with a tank and a couple of trenches. We weren't able to connect them inside the house, so we're going to have 2 septic tanks going to a field. The on-site well is located behind the house, about 40 feet off the back. Close to the neighboring well is over in here. We stayed outside of those buffers. However, in order to try to limit the tree clearing, I don't know if are you familiar with this? It's pretty heavily treated through here. We are requesting a variance to go 4 feet to groundwater versus 5 feet under the local regulations.
Because you would need to go into an area that has dense.
Yeah, there's a lot more trees. As it is now, it's going to be stabilized with riprap or jute mesh. So it's going to be a traditional system.
And it meets Title V, but
Yeah.
not the Sherborn.
Okay, and is this house in Sherborn also?
Yes, this is the one that has a big lawn in front of it, kind of a farmer's porch. I think it's fairly new.
It is.
90s, yeah.
Yeah, that's fairly new to us.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Their system is in the front, and their well is way back here.
And there's no distance or setback variances?
No.
It's literally just the
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
4 feet versus 5 feet?
Right.
And an effluent filter is being used?
Yes, in both tanks. The other
Okay.
variance is to allow the SAS to be in an area with less than 5 feet of natural grade above groundwater, and the SAS to be in an area where groundwater is at least 5 feet below grade. In these test pits, we found redox at 26 inches, 24 inches, and 24 inches, so it's
So
high
3
groundwater.
feet.
Yeah, 2 feet, yeah. Which is characteristic of this area. It's fine sand material.
So can you just explain this to me, because I haven't been doing this nearly as long as Daryl and you. So here it's saying that the bottom of the system is going to be 4 feet above groundwater instead of 5 feet. But this second variance is that the natural groundwater table depth is only about 3 feet.
Right.
So how can it be 4 feet above?
Okay, well,
You're
this one's
rounding?
talking, yeah,
Okay.
it's a mound. So this one's talking about natural,
Right.
and then this
So
one
you're
is
rounding.
just
That was my only
Exactly,
question.
yeah.
Okay.
total.
I
So,
just didn't know.
That one you'll
Yeah.
It was
almost always see on
implied.
every plan. Yeah, because it's hard to find in
For-
Sherwood. 5
yeah.
feet.
Yeah, yeah.
because really, people have already moved into all the properties that,
So this is, it's not because it failed, though, it's because they're expanding?
Actually, this one did fail. There is breakout over in this area.
Oh, okay.
So,
So it's
but this one-
expansion and,
yeah. Well, they're probably taking the opportunity, as long as they're doing it, to allow for an extra bedroom, and it's certainly better, so it's kind of funny that they had two systems, right? So,
This was probably.
and a cesspool
Yeah.
is certainly not good, doesn't do
Old
much
school.
usually, yeah. So, and right, so really to achieve 5, you'd still need 1 variance, but you would just have that mound be bigger and you would be eliminating more trees, so. And it's hard to know, we've seen where people don't want to take out trees, and then lo and behold, every tree is gone and it's a big yard in the future, so there's no guarantees.
Right, right.
But it's certainly an improvement over a failed system and a cesspool.
right.
So I just want to make sure I'm not totally sure I have the right picture in my head. So we're 3 feet to groundwater. There's a 1 foot mound. That would be a 2 foot mound.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be.
It
I think
would,
you said-
if it was
If
for
it required the
5.
5, it would be
Yeah.
a 2 foot mound.
it's
If it
gonna be
requires a 4, that's
1.
Title 5.
Right,
It would be 1.
right.
Okay.
But he's asking for 4.
Yes, I'm
Right.
asking.
If I can help a little bit, so if groundwater's at 3 feet, the bottom of the leaching trench is at 1 foot. But that's going to also go up another, in this case, they 2 feet or 1 foot
That's what it
trenches.
sounds
1
like to
foot.
get.
1 foot, so now you're up 2 feet, then you have to have cover material. So most likely the mound will show 3 feet out of grade.
Okay. And it sounds like part of what I'm trying to get my mind around is just thinking about consistency in sort of future conversations. It sounds like the driver for this is in part a failed system. We're now saying we have a dysfunctional system that's worse than any of the things we're talking about.
right.
We are coming up with a better system. This is materially
improvement.
different than new construction that we
Correct.
said, I want to build here.
Right.
I think that you should do it because you did it here. In this case, we have a community member who is a failed system, and this
Right.
is the way to get a compliant system that is safer than the not compliant
Yes.
system, which is different than
Yes.
a new build would be, for example.
Right, and so this one's a little more discretionary than some where, I think, since you've been here, we've seen the ones where once you draw where you're left with putting something,
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of choices, so there's a little more choice here. And in the ones that are well, we would have to grant this variance to the second one, because if you can't, they're already at a high point, really, on the property, so it would only get worse if you tried to slide it out here.
So is it- so if you
Naturally
sort of slide it
occurring
down-
soil depth to groundwater is probably getting less as you go down this way.
Okay.
So, part of the issue, too, is if you don't grant variances and there's an existing house, you're essentially denying anybody to live there anymore. So that's why we try and
And so
find
that rationale
something.
makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense to me, to say you live here and the system's
It's-
not working, there's
It's
not
a very
better pathway.
distinct
Yeah.
situation relative to, I want to develop
Right.
this land.
And then the effluent filter, right, that's so, okay, so it'll work better, it won't get clogged up and that sort of thing. So it's another add-on to it, so.
I should note, though, that Mark did ask that I revise this plan to show 4 inches of stone above the pipe, where in the past, we've just had, it is in the regulations, right? Yeah.
5.C, I forget, I can tell you if you wanted to ask for a waiver, you could at 7.0C.
I think I'll just
Just
provide
go with
the
that.
plans, yeah. So we used to just put this 2 inches of double washed stone on the top of the pipe, but in the Sherborn regulations,
4.
it does show.
4 inches of the...
4 inches, right?
And then the 2
No, now
inches.
we're providing 4.
Right, no, I'm saying, yeah,
Yeah,
I get it, yep.
We used to just have the 2 inches of pea stone over the top, but now it's going to be 4 inches plus the 2 inches of pea stone.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
6.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you keep adding up and your
Yeah.
mound keeps going up.
Yeah, because it's 6 feet or so over there.
4
so-
inches of pipe, 6 inches above that, and then another 12 inches, so you got about another 2 feet, plus the 2 feet below the pipe, so you've got 4 feet, plus the 4,
Yeah,
plus
this
the
should
4.
last a long time.
Okay, so do you have any comments beyond what we've talked about thus
Glad
far?
Eric brought that up, thank you, Eric. We talked about it, so, no, I'm in favor of, based on the site conditions, and you can see it's taken up a large area of land, it should, in my view, be very sufficient for its use. And the board should know you're, excuse me, you're designing for 4 bedrooms, correct?
Right.
And
It's going from 3 to 4?
Yes.
Okay.
that's why you went with trenches. There are systems that innovative alternative technology that would allow it to be less than the height of this, but they wish to have the extra bedroom. Sorry, I got a summer cold.
We won't take it personally.
That's why we've got you down there. So, okay.
If you add a bedroom, you can't go less than 4 feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the variance to section 8.01?
So moved?
Second?
Any other discussion? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.02?
So moved?
Second?
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll close the hearing, and are the plans ready for approval?
With the additional stone, do you have those plans available? So we'll have to wait, and unfortunately, you'll have to come in and sign them at different times.
No worries.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plans subject to receipt of the revision satisfactory to the agent? And do we need any deed recordings for garbage grinder or anything else
This will
here?
require the garbage grinder.
Okay,
prohibition.
and receipt of a garbage grinder deed recording. And is that it? Just 2 conditions, okay?
So move?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, how are we? We have, all
When's
right,
the next?
3 minutes. All right, let's pick something that, not that big topic we were discussing before. Oh, Span DS. We have an invoice from them. So Span DS is the substance abuse prevention group with this, who works with the kids in town at all school levels. So I took a look at their website. They have posting, they interviewed lots of people who were involved in the schools and with the kids, so police officers and headmaster and teachers and guidance counselors and lots of other folks. and they have posters, not that you can read them here, but,
Yeah,
you know, they just ask them different questions about how they feel about
My take
how
is we're in
parents
this
can
together.
help, and,
We're in this together.
We're in this
That was a
together.
theme I picked up.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, some advice for kids are just people sharing stories of why they think it's important and how they just want good things for the kids. So it was, I liked the things, but in any case, and they're going to come and present to us at the next meeting. To talk about also where these posters go. So they're putting them in the school now, but they're thinking of moving them around. But again, they'll fill us in on that. But the point is that we had in our budget monies for them to pay for various things that they need. Sometimes they brought in speakers, but this year they did this. So we have, on the second page, they paid $721.19 for the posters, but apparently Ellen checked, and we can't reimburse them for sales tax because the town is exempt, and they did become a nonprofit, and that also made some of this stuff different. So apparently they can probably come back, talk to the finance department, and get, maybe get a refund on that. So for now, the issue is whether we vote to approve $678.78.
And that is for the first item lower down. There's a second bunch, so the actual total
Okay.
to be reimbursed to them would be $828.72. And that's minus all the
Okay,
tax. on the-
828.72?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve reimbursement of $828.72 to Spandy S for their poster campaign?
So moved?
Second. Any other comments, questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, can I just ask you, Darrell, to
Okay. So just under it, or?
Actually, one of their questions was, would you reimburse Joan Twining directly, or do you want it to go to Spandy S and they would refund it to her? You can do it either way, but I've made up
Okay.
invoice both ways, and you just sign whichever one you choose.
I would say, my thought is to Spandy S. I can see that she is the one who
Right.
made the payments, but then it keeps our relationship, I think.
Yeah, so I'll take that one.
Okay.
You can sign this one.
Okay. Is that okay with the board, to pay Spandy S? And okay.
Yes.
So am I just putting my signature somewhere
and that
across
you
the bottom?
approve, yeah.
Okay. And today's date? Today's the 7th, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But,
And Eric,
Right.
we've missed you, so we have a septic replacement variance hearing for 6 Bridle Path.
All the green cards have been received, everything's good.
Okay, great. And are you here for that one by any chance? Oh, okay. If you want to come up while he's presenting, but maybe you know. Yeah, please do. You'll-
And Mark,
Hi.
I'm Matt. Nice to meet you.
So this is 6 Bridle Path. This is located off of Ivy Lane, which is off of Route 27. Mark has an existing 4-bedroom, single-family home. The existing septic system is located right back in this area. It's in failure, it's in the groundwater. The on-site well is located in the front of the property. It's about 40 feet off the front of the house. Neighboring wells, right here actually, are also located. That being said, we did our testing back in this area. We encountered similar soils to this property we were just talking about, pretty high groundwater and a loamy sand, hard sandy loam material. We were able to get a system design they have a very nice feeder of this field, and it's a stone wall, so they decided to go with the geoflow system, which is advanced treatment. However, this does require some variances from both the state and the local regulations. It's a fast tank to a
Okay.
geoflow, I don't know if you guys are.
I have fast.
It's got a blower right here that feeds the bacteria, and breaks it down. And this
So
is
it's sort of like
a hose.
pre-treatment essentially.
And an alarm.
Yeah,
That
that's
just-
an alarm on that. Yeah.
When your electricity goes out, by the
Yeah.
way, it goes off, so just let you know. You will be resetting it.
For the 2 weeks
You didn't-
electricity
Yeah. So,
What these do, though, is you avoid a mound.
right,
Yeah.
so that keeps the view intact, but, so how, you said the groundwater is like 3 feet?
Here it was
Below-
24,
2
24 inches, yeah,
2 feet.
Yeah, was the highest, yeah.
So,
So these trenches that were here existing are probably.
So this will be much better, because bacteria and viruses, when they stay wet, can keep living. So if they're being discharged into wet ground, they just live for a long time, versus if they dry out, then they have a chance to die off. So,
so is the bottom
Has
going to
stay
be
2 feet
2 feet
that
above?
grade right now.
Yeah.
But you're only required to put, is it 6 inches of cover over these, yeah. 'Cause they can almost use it like a ditch witch to pull in, it's like a garden almost.
Mhm.
Yeah, they weave around trees.
Pretty much an irrigation system.
Yeah,
Some
very
type-
well built.
Drip hose, a drip hose.
Yep. These have little.
Inlets and outlet to.
oh, so if they're that shallow, then there can be some uptake of stuff by, even grass would go down 6 inches if,
Right. You
So-
can see them if you've ever, yeah, you'll see the grass growing.
Enthusiastically.
Get green stripes.
Yeah, you can.
They like
Yeah.
the nutrients.
so.
But it does
Okay.
provide unbelievable treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, they claim you can drink this water.
No thanks, but
It sounds like right now you're drinking hot water, so it's definitely an upgrade.
So, well, on the nitrate front, maybe, but the FAST doesn't treat everything. So, yes, from nitrate, sure,
Couple
or
vials.
nitrogen compounds, but, so I think we'll vote these one by one because they're a bunch, but do you have any comments overall about?
No, I think Eric did a very good job in explaining the entire system and the issues on the site, and most important, the groundwater, and I'm okay with the way it's been presented.
Okay. All right.
is there
Shall
any,
we-
the only question I have is, are there any potential, because it is, a pretty small separation, have you ever seen someone who has this type of separation have breakouts or ponding?
I've seen one issue, it was the first one ever installed. It was installed in November, it was down on Coolidge Street. Sorry, I'm talking, I apologize. It was
I
down
don't
on...
think there's anybody here.
It was, yeah, no, just in case the listening audience, said, what did he say? But we had one down on Coolidge Street, again, very high groundwater, and it actually caused it to freeze. So GeoFlow now has provisions for any late fall, winter installations. So they typically will put hay over them, or an insulation of some type.
Oh, but once it's being used, it
It's
won't
fine.
freeze?
Yeah.
The heat from the effluent keeps it from freezing.
So if,
We're coming up with all these euphemisms.
just in case he needs to know, so if they go away for 2 months in winter and it's not used, is that
It's been
an
questioned
issue?
by many of us, yeah.
Oh.
It continues to dose, because that would be a concern if you were gone for the winter. and
Oh,
came
okay, so
back
it's
and-
using whatever's in the tank and
Yeah,
then
keeps
just making
circulating.
sure something is flowing out there? Oh, interesting. Okay. Glad you asked that question. Learned all sorts of new
We
things.
learned something new. Okay.
All right, so, let's see, so, I think you've pretty much explained most of them. So, first we'll do a motion, and then if there's any more discussion or questions. So, do we have a motion to section 1.2? To grant a variance to section 1.2.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.01?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, let's see, I'll just note that for this variance there, it's both the technology that's been, it's really the technology that's been selected and that DEP has approved for this kind of thing, so, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.02?
So moved.
Second?
Any other issues? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do you want to go over I don't think we've done too many Title V upgrade approvals with the new board, so if you want to just explain that.
This is to allow a reduction in the 4-foot separation, which we talked about.
To two.
In soils with a recorded percolation rate of more than 2 minutes per inch, which we had 4 minutes per inch.
And you had less than 2, Eric, on the other perk,
Yeah.
so that's, you're not allowed to average, you always take the worst-case scenario, so that's why you did that.
Before, correct.
The 2, right? Less than 2?
Yeah.
Yep.
So given the following requirements are met, the existing system has failed, which it is. There's no increase in design flow. He's keeping 4 bedrooms. And there's no reduction in the size of the system or the setbacks from private wells, which he's staying on about.
Okay. So do we have...
What's this, there's, can you just explain the second one too, that, about the,
Oh, this one, the reduction to 15,405, 1, is that J or I? To allow the reduction requirement of 12-inch separation between inlet and outlet teeth due to high groundwater, provided that all boots or pipe joints are sealed with hydraulic cement and installed with watertight sleeves, and the tank is proven watertight. Because we know in these test pits that groundwater seasonal high is 24 inches, this inlet and this outlet of this tank is within 12.
so the
inches.
tank is,
Yeah,
2 feet.
if it's within 12 inches of the
I see.
inlet and outlet, you have to request a variance. This tank will be sealed, and will have watertight boots on it, but it is a variance.
And it is above what is supposed to be historic high groundwater, as
Yeah.
best they could figure out. So it's an extra protection, because there would have been that 12 inches protection, but this is, so it's extra. How many inches did you say you have between the two at the moment?
Between the high, I don't think, 9375.
You'd have to base it on test pit number 2, Eric, it's the closest one. Elevation on that is close because the grades come over. So test pit 2 would be elevation of 194.7.
Yeah, then we're at 193.75, so we're.
oh, like a foot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
you're
clo-
very
a little-
close to it,
yeah,
but...
11 inches,
Yeah.
11 and a
Right.
quarter. So-
Okay.
Okay.
But it's good, just in case, so, all right. That makes sense to you? It's just a,
I think enough sense.
okay, all right, great.
I expect I'll continue learning.
It's really just, if the groundwater were to rise up, and you've got a pipe going through
You don't
the
want it
cement
going-
tank, you don't want stuff leaking in and then sloshing stuff out, and all
That
that
sounds
kind of
perfect.
stuff.
I'm totally
okay?
against sloshing.
Okay, great. All right, do we have a motion to grant a variance to section, for Title V, local upgrade approvals, these are different than local regs, but to section 15.4051H?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have a motion to grant a variance under Title V to section 15.4051J.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And so I'll close the hearing, and are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, and I just want to stand corrected on what we were just talking about earlier. The impeding layer is the one that is the 4 minutes per inch. That's why Eric asked for 2 feet to 4 feet versus 2 to 5. They tested the small layer of the second layer they used to call subsoil, now called BW. So he was correct in his wording on that variance. and the plans are ready for approval.
Okay, and do we need any,
Deed.
We do
Deed
need two
recording
deed
for-
recordings. DEP notice on alternative technology, alternative system, as well as the garbage grinder.
okay. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the plans subject to receipt of deed recordings for the IA technology and the garbage grinder? Lack of a garbage grinder. So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Good night, Mark.
Are you going to bother sitting down, or?
Well, we do have to officially wait till 8:30.
All right,
All right, what, let's see.
we'll keep pecking away.
Is 198 South Main Street quick, or?
Pretty quick, I have
Okay.
both plans ready to show. There's a situation where it was aesthetics to some degree. The owner did not want to see a drop from the garage to the septic system here. There's a grading drop and preferred to put the system, you'll see the proposed garage. You'll see we dug deep holes here, here, and here. And this was the approved plan. And then, the engineer explained the owner prefers to move the system out versus building a wall here. Or seeing the wall, or seeing the wall of the garage. So it's more aesthetic, so took the system and moved it out, but it's still being represented by two soil testing. This isn't too far. And they're all within the same type of soils, so I don't see a problem with the request. It still meets, in fact, the well distance increased a little bit. It was 161, now it's going to be 168, so actually moved away from the proposed well by 7 feet.
Okay.
So I
So
recommend-
last time we voted, did we consider that not in, that it was 2 pits and not
We
3?
require 3, but this is, within reason, still within the same.
Oh,
area.
okay.
This is 1, 2, 3, it's just system slid down, so it moves away from this deep hole to some degree by about 20 feet, but not to the degree that I think it would affect
Oh,
the
okay.
performance of the system, or there would be issues.
Okay,
I don't see an issue with the request.
all right, so looking to have us approve the revision, essentially.
It's a revision to a previously approved plan.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve the revision to this previously approved plan? Is that sufficient? Which condition?
We had added to the other one. It's just that they're taking out the old well and putting in a new well. And so before they finalize the project, we want to make sure this new well shows potability before they get too far. And so that's why we always said on the other plan approval that the well has to prove potability prior to the system. So I just want to keep the same language.
Oh, okay.
And is that done by doing the standard
Yeah,
drinking
they
water
pump test
tests?
and lab test.
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Okay, and so with that, did you get that condition, Ellen?
Yep, right,
Okay.
right, yep.
Okay.
And they are, the wells have been improved and to have the potability. I just want to keep the same conditions.
Right.
So we're moving in the same direction as we did in the past.
Okay, so, I can't remember, was that moved, or shall I repropose it? Well, do we have a motion to approve this revision to a previously approved plan with the condition just noted?
So moved?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Oh. How about the disposal works installer permit? We have
And
Ben Stevens himself.
Well,
That's it.
Ellen, did he ever work doing this before?
We called his 3 towns, his 3 references were Southborough, Wayland, and Sudbury. We called all 3. Southborough said, we spoke to Paul Pazinski, the health agent. Good work, no issues. Wayland, good. does big projects, new systems, is in good standing. Sudbury said there were no problems, very reputable, and he renews his license every year. So,
Okay.
What I would suggest, and when we're soil testing, he has hired help, so I would suggest it being, the permit being approved, but it's always conditional to pre-construction. I didn't realize Ben did installations. It'll be the first time I've worked with him for installations. He's always out there with his crew, but he's never on the excavator, so I have a feeling it's probably Ben Stevens plus staff, which is, as long as they do the job right, it's not a problem.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve this permit for Ben Stevens of Trask, Inc., subject to, or conditional to pre-construction?
Conferences for each septic plan installation.
So moved?
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, and I think
You
we've been
sent this
adding
down.
to agenda items, if anyone has anything they want to add for next time, but I think we're about to have one added in, after we're done with you. And then when we get back to Sweet Meadow, we'll have some agenda items, and then we had ones carrying over from last time. Okay, thanks. Okay, noting that it's 8:30, we have a variance hearing for septic replacement at 14 Stony Brook Road. So,
and there was an issue with a butter notification on this one as well. The applicant forgot to notify one abutter. She did realize it, I guess, at the last minute, and she sent an abutter notification letter out on Monday. She did receive the green card back Tuesday. She brought it in, along with a letter from the abutter saying that he waives his right to the 10-day notification, and that he waives his right to challenge the variance put forth. But again, I spoke to Barbara St. Andre about this also, and she said no, that the abutters have all been notified, but they have not all received the required notice, and that she recommended that the board continue this hearing until the next meeting. They don't need to re-notify the abutters, because now they all have received the required 10 days. And it will be for the next meeting.
okay.
She realizes that she screwed up, so she.
Yeah. And we did try to find an alternative.
Right.
And she was ready, just in case,
Yeah.
you know, because when I was communicating with her, and
Right.
I got some guidance from Lisa as well, that it might be an option, but we weren't sure, and then we did hear back from town council. So, anyway, all right, so the hearing's been open, but we're going to continue it to
It would be June 21st.
June 21st at,
So is that like the
I
other
will
one
can I go,
that we're,
can you recess briefly, and I'll
okay.
go and
We're
get
going
the
to have a
time?
tiny recess.
Because you do need to give it time.
Yeah,
And I
time
know
certain, date and time certain.
7:30 is span DS, I just don't want to.
oh, the
I
presentation?
just want to check.
Yeah. Okay.
So if it's continued, we don't hear anything, like you
Right.
don't make any presentation, and we just put it on the agenda,
You can also continue if you get through a bunch of stuff, and
but you
then,
don't quite.
yeah, so. Yeah, unless you want to know the time that we're continuing it to.
So while we're at recess, my 5-year-old is really big into Legos,
Got an
and
extra-
the best Lego
The plans, can I
creation of
get
Trip
one
so
of those
far is
books?
was like, Dad, I'm making the hot dog guy. I was like, who's the hot dog guy? And there's like a periodic hot dog stand at Will's in Medfield. There's like a guy who makes hot dogs in the parking lot. So that's who he decided he was going to make
Wow.
for his Legos, because he'd done everything he could think of with Star Wars, and was like, I'm making the hot dog guy.
I have some serious stuff for you.
Yeah?
Because my son, who is now 16, was way into the intricate
Yeah.
kits. And of course, he would just be into them,
Yeah.
make them in a day, and then it's like,
No,
I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just spent $85. Like, what are you talking about? Knock it and make it again.
That's what his 2-year-old brother's for. He's an excellent force of entropy.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So I'll look around.
That sounds fabulous. We are a very enthusiastic Lego household.
Yeah, I've been, but
I don't remember what we've already.
muddy.
I had a
Gone
friend
through-
who
yeah.
is
One
a
of the
little
places.
beyond your
Yeah.
kid's age now, and
was on a
I
friend
might
over
have
at
given those
39.
to them.
Yeah, I would say anything you have would be welcome. He has
Okay.
a broad definition of this is fabulous.
Okay,
Path down.
we like that.
Lincoln Logs, too?
We don't have Lincoln Logs, but they would be welcome too. He loves building stuff.
Yeah.
He's a
Do you have the
Yeah, the
Danish
construction has built,
one? That has like
Oh, okay.
interesting people and dogs and scenery. You know what I'm talking about? It's really famous.
Yeah.
Really also
What does that mean?
expensive. Really hard plastic though, like well made. God, what was that called? You know what I'm
Playmobil?
talking about?
Yeah,
huh?
I think so.
not Playmobil.
Yeah, Playmobil.
Playmobil. Yeah.
Okay, so we are back in session, and Ellen checked on the agenda for next time so that we could have a date and time certain.
Yeah, okay, I just don't know how long one of the appointments will take. So at 7:30, the next meeting, you have this presentation from Span DS. At 7:50, I've already confirmed with Jim Murphy a discussion on groundwater mounding, so I don't know how long that will take. So
And that's, okay.
Is that related to a particular,
the regulations.
Yeah.
wait, so are we
So the
opening it up?
study is, well, no, I think they actually might want to propose something specific for a property in advance of us revising regulations.
Oh, okay.
That's just a guess, I'm not sure, but,
Yeah.
so,
You're
well,
requesting
you know
an
what?
appointment, so-
Okay, well, we might just have to, limit it to some amount of time and then
Mm-hmm.
continue it at the end of the night if needed, or another day. So what amount of time do we
Yeah, that's-
think?
I just
why
don't
don't
know.
we, I mean,
Let's say 20 minutes?
I was going to say,
the
your
usual.
typical appointment
Yeah.
allotment is 20 minutes, so
Yep.
let's keep it to that.
So
And
then, this would be at 8:10.
And especially because whatever the specific issue he has, I'd like to stick to that because we're
Right,
about to
'cause
spend
I
all
was-
this money on a study, so I'd rather wait for that.
Yep.
And just see what they have
Okay.
to say. So, okay. All right.
Have a good night.
see
Thank
you
you.
next time.
Okay, so the hearing is continued to, what was that, 8?
June 21st at
21st.
8:10.
Okay. June 21st, 8:10. All right, so
We are back.
we are back to, I guess we'll have some warrants and payroll to sign. That's because you need multiple signatures, so we'll do
Exactly.
that at the end as we're wrapping up and doing signing in general,
Yeah.
the plan. Okay,
And then, Ellen, just one thing for the memorandum. I think it lists 15 Stony Brook, where I think it
Oh,
should be
said
14 Stony.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh, Daryl, I actually had some corrections on the minutes, so I don't know.
oh, yeah, let's
you
try to
gotta
wrap up Sweet Meadow, and then
then-
we'll do minutes.
Okay.
So, I had a few comments, too. so. Okay. All right. Does anyone want to take it away on where we are?
So I guess the one thing I'd love clarification from, just to make sure it's permissible, is it sounds like we do believe we're able to issue a temporary permit for
Oh,
something
yeah,
like.
do you think that's,
I still think it gets a little dicey. It really, if something was to happen, they may question what's temporary mean. I would suggest that no permit be issued until the agent is satisfied.
Well, so I guess the question is, I think the point that Peter raised is just, if we're going to talk about the agenda item, I'd love to give community members notification.
Oh,
whether they
that's,
choose
oh,
to-
that's.
Yeah, it's the open meeting.
And-
Yeah, and not-
And so
yeah.
for me, it's sort of the question of saying, I want to make sure that we still have an avenue to address any concerns that are raised at a meeting where we still have permit granting abilities.
I think that's fine. I
Yeah,
think
so
a
if we do-
temporary issue by the, I'm sorry, by
Yeah.
the health agent. A temporary issue by the health agent based on the abutter situation.
Right. And
So make it a 30-day, and then we have our next meeting on the 21st, so we could,
I
Right, so
would make it even less than 30
maybe
days,
like
maybe.
3 weeks, like 21 days.
I was going to ask, can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we do anything?
At this point, we're going
Okay.
into new territory, I
If we're
guess,
going
so.
into- in
Uncharted
good faith
territory.
fashion into
Okay.
uncharted territory.
Okay.
But I think the rationale, too, if our next meeting's in 2 weeks, but then
You'd want
if
final
the health
concept
agent
for
just
that.
needs time to either get to town,
Right.
even, to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. So, well, and the other thing, just in terms of whether they're ready, I mean, he says in his memo, it's ready for
With
opening
conditions.
with these conditions. So, that everything else is checked out, and he did spend a lot of time there. So, to check carefully on that.
But I'd love to see
Yeah.
like the kind of concrete pieces for number 3. Like, to me, that's the only part that's sort of
Mm-hmm.
ambiguous about, it's likely that these will need to be requested. And so it makes it harder for me to say,
Right.
I feel totally comfortable knowing that something may or may not be needed. I'd feel better approving what I know. But again, I don't feel strongly, like, sort of depending on past convention.
That was
and
my uneasiness as well, and we weren't part of the
Right.
2014, so I don't know.
Right, and it, very likely that it would need to request a variance, and so it is a gray area. And I don't know if before 2014, were they not serving, did they not have a camp before then? I don't even recall.
Yeah,
They may
They
have
might
early
not
camp.
have. That might have been the first year.
Oh.
I mean, because for a while they operated, was it a camp, was it not a camp?
Yeah.
It was just under
Oh,
the
okay.
level.
All right, because it was horse riding
Right,
lessons or
right.
just go buy a bunny. Okay. Okay, and, so this is the interesting part. So we did do, as Ellen mentioned, all the checking to find out about how to address that for camps. But whether a variance is explicitly needed, and have you ever seen?
Well,
I mean, I think it's a nice idea to just be
I mean,
more concrete about it.
I think it's
So,
appropriate.
Explicit.
And, it was agreed back in 2014, but maybe appropriate to make it formal, as a waiver request.
Right. Okay, so,
So can I try to summarize and then have you translate that into sort of appropriate language, just to make sure I understand it?
yeah, because I'm seeing the first two is not as hard, but
No.
it is that third one of how would we word that if we want to say that a variance is requested, but they haven't requested it? That one,
For the last bullet he had of the three.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
number 3.
Well, I've inspected camps that actually have cisterns and sinks with water that gets pumped,
Yeah.
and, the rural camps, Girl Scout camp, actually, and it could go either way, it depends on how formal you want to make it,
Yeah.
and in this case, I would make it formal.
Yeah.
okay.
And then for next year too, as well. I mean, I'm looking
So
prospectively
predictability
as
to
well.
say,
Yeah.
This will be the same deal next year.
Yeah.
We want to
Exactly.
be consistent
Yep.
so that
Right,
it's a
and
little
then
bit
it's in
easier.
black and white.
Right.
They
and-
may change their format on what source they're using, they may,
Right.
where are they getting the source from for the...
Right.
turning
And I think
on the
also
faucet.
consistency for other folks who may do this, to sort of say, this is the pathway, it's clear, it's transparent.
Yep.
We want it to be predictable for you, how the board will behave and what the board will ask of you, and it feels like if we make it within structures that we routinely use, that makes it a little bit clearer.
We did use that for the store. The store actually has portable as well, because on that site, they don't have a septic system. They can't. The site has groundwater within the first 5 feet. That's why this site is set up the way it is, because it was new construction and it wouldn't be allowed to, they wanted originally to put in homes. They tested it twice within 10 years, and it just never passed the groundwater greater than 5 feet below the surface. So they thought of other ideas,
Right.
and as they were thinking about them, they weren't thinking about maybe a store that is a farm stand / some convenience items, or were they thinking about a camp? So those came as ideas started coming in, so that's why we're
So
in
it
this
is unusual
dilemma.
to have a site without well or septic, but with
Yeah.
all those buildings. So it's just an anomaly, or hopefully an
But they were aware of it when they
Yeah.
did the testing, that
Right.
they
Yeah.
couldn't have any, but they were allowed with modification to make it work. with
Yeah.
portable.
And I think that sounds like that would be the goal now, it'd just be to make sure that it's sort of consistent, because this sounds like a scenario we could see with other entities, and also one that we'll
Yeah.
continue to see with Sweet Meadow, and to, again, be able to say, this in future boards have a consistent infrastructure to use and apply.
So would we, elaborating on that third bullet, if we provided some kind of a 3-week provisional permit, would we say that one of the conditions is that they request variance, providing their specific procedures and septic and blah, 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 at this next meeting? Okay.
Yeah, and-
I think that works
Right.
for me.
See that?
Yeah, and I'd also love to see kind of notification of campers and their families, to
That
just
it's a-
let them know. So there's an opportunity to learn more, because like, I think the point that the community member raised
Yeah.
was a fair one. Like, I just would want to know, like, I may say, I'm totally fine with this is fighting allergies, or whatever.
Right. So provisional permit, and that it's going to be on the agenda for the 6/21, and so if a parent is interested in hearing, they can come.
And just, I know the word septic's in here, but just so you know, they don't have a septic system, so the only opportunity they have is to empty out the containers, might there be a bucket, might
They have
there
a
be a
porta
tank, and a
potty.
porta toilet. That's how they do it, yeah. At the store as well, because they have no resources for disposal. So that's how they have to do it. But I think a weekly update with checklists showing where they dispose of, how many gallons we use, because you catch up to a dilemma of you don't want to have people conserving to prevent hand washing.
Right.
That
Right.
concerned me with the camp. I wasn't
Especially for
involved with the
kids.
store.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is
I
just,
Just
they're-
vectors.
yes.
Maybe they should be required to put in, one of those portable
Station.
camping tanks. You can have someone come over and pump it out, or better than that, they now have portable hand stations that are provided
seen
by the
those.
porta toilet
Yeah,
companies.
yeah.
And they have the storage up in a cylinder, and you have the 4 stations around with the little pumps, and then they can pump those out
Yeah.
quicker, and you don't have to move water. I would suggest the easier the better, and you want to promote hand washing.
Yeah.
And if that's not enough, bring in 2,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if they were here, they wouldn't want to hear that, but that's what I would promote.
Well, and I think we want to give them the opportunity to be here and to participate in the conversation and say, hey, these are the concerns, and to have any impacted community members say, these are my concerns.
And,
Like-
and they can be responsive to some of our questions, because
Exactly.
Okay.
I think I could work with that.
So it sounds like the kind of key points are 21 days, camper family notification of kind of hearing date, and then they need to request these as variances.
And notification, not just of hearing date, but of that they're on a
That
temporary.
Provisional,
Yeah.
provisional, yeah.
And
And
it
then-
sounds like that this permit, the provisional permit, would still be issued, what was the language you used? It would be issued by the board but released by
Well,
Ethan.
we're
with
going to
the
sign
condition.
it, and and the agent will have it.
Yeah, well, there's nothing for you to sign.
Oh, okay,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
But your approval of it,
Full
he
approval,
would release it at the appropriate time when he
Okay.
felt the
But
camp
I
was
have a
ready.
question on the process. So would I send them a letter? What if they don't request the variance?
Then I think the
Or
provisional
then
piece
their
Yeah,
expires.
we're saying
will
they,
just
we're saying they need
Expire,
to,
right.
yeah.
Their permit will just
Pretty much.
They don't-
expire and that
Exactly,
Right.
then they're not going to have a camp.
Camp is no longer, and
Like, I think for
Would
us,
you-
And that, so they need to find some way to have somebody come to the next meeting.
Okay. What would be the fee for the variance? It would be a variances to the state regulations for recreational day camps for children.
I don't see the need for a fee.
No fee?
In this case,
Okay.
since you don't have
Yeah,
the
there's
opportunity
nothing.
for a hearing to set a fee, so
Right.
specifically for camps,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't let that bog down this year.
Right, okay.
I agree,
Next
I
year.
agree.
So
We're not
then-
trying to
And
And
beat
that
that in
one
the
might
box.
make them more apt to
Right.
do it as well.
and I think that also lets us, as we thought about the appropriate inspection regimen, that fee could be a piece of that structure. If we do sort of end up with a strategy to say how to make sure that we can sustain the cost of increased inspections when necessary, baking into that any sort of variance fee language to kind of define it in that body, should we get there.
Okay.
And then what time?
And, okay, so also we need the, whatever we vote has to be subject to receipt
of the
of
fire
the
department.
fire
Building.
And the
department
building
inspection.
inspector.
Yeah.
So didn't you already schedule something for 8:10? Are we
Yep,
up to
so it'd be
8:30?
8:30? Would you say 8:30? Yeah.
I'll Definitely drink my coffee next time.
Maybe Rebecca will bring us something back really good from Peru.
Okay.
They have coffee there.
Oh, coffee.
And some other things.
Knit goods, high alpine, alpaca.
Take a
alpaca
sweater.
hats. Yeah.
And
Poncho.
I would only say, seeing at bullet 4 that they jump quite a bit, I think it is important that you assure inspections for ratios, especially you're near a major road, you're near some homes, and you want to make sure the campers have that the camp counselors and directors are set up with enough for the appropriate amount of campers. There's ratios depending on age.
And
So
that's
usually
your
6
fault.
and under, it's 5 per ratio, 5 per counselor, and when they're over 6, it's 10 per counselor. And again, that's something the board may want to discuss. I've seen a camp that was in an area that was of concern, I'll just leave it at that, and it wasn't the camp, it was the people living near the camp, and the ratios, well, put it this way, they wanted to increase the ratios, so they would be 10 to 1.
Yeah.
The board said absolutely not,
Yeah.
based on the
I
location.
can't remember what numbers, but Ethan has mentioned
Yeah.
that kind of thing, so,
So
but
that-
So he
it's,
would definitely want a spot check when
That's-
it
for that-
blossoms,
for that
when
amount,
the- when the
yeah.
population
Exactly.
increases.
and on the pool issue, and
Yeah.
there are no
Yeah, that's what I
things to
remember
keep
from
up
the
on, yeah.
last year.
So, all right,
I guess one question I have, I'm sort of cheerfully flexible about what's appropriate for public discussion. There have been sort of a couple allusions to kind of contact with staff members and children. Do you have any concerns about sort
Yeah,
of,
I didn't know what.
yeah, I don't know what those
yeah.
are, nor do I know that they're necessarily appropriate
Yeah,
for
I
public
would-
discussion.
yeah, although I'm
Code's very
thinking that
specific.
the explanation is probably better than what's in
Yeah.
everybody's mind.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it,
There was just
since
a
it's
lack
on the
of-
application, or
I don't know.
in their records, are they
For
public? I would
communication,
assume they're
it's supposed to
public
be only
records.
camp directors and camp counselors handling those children. It shouldn't be anyone outside of that staff.
So if it's,
They're
if it's
trained.
office staff, it could,
They
it
should not
could
be
not, it
involved.
could just be that that's just the way the
Right.
code is. And so if you're someone who's just keeping track of forms
like
and
a
word
mailbox,
processing and
yeah.
answering the phone, it's
If
not
somebody
like
said
I
you
have
can't
an
be the
issue
pinch
in my
hitter.
past,
Right,
but.
It's just certified, they have to be certified to be a camp
Right.
counselor or the camp director.
And that
they
would
have
be sort
junior
of
and
covered
senior.
in Ethan's routine inspections. Okay. I think
That's-
that was my only question, so whatever oversight we have about sort of permissible activity in a given role, it sounds like that would also be something that was verifiable by Ethan in unannounced inspections.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right, and unannounced is the goal, and, varying days, because unfortunately, they, I guess, would not do the pool thing last
Yeah,
year
when they
on
knew.
Wednesdays,
Right.
which was his routine day, so it has to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
something variable, so that that kind of thing can't be done, so, okay.
I'll be pretty up to speed on this by the next meeting because my son is a counselor at Rivers. He had been a CIT, and he's going to this intensive counselor training the weekend before, so maybe
Oh,
I'll,
wow.
maybe I'll look at his materials and just take a gander.
You could quiz him.
Yeah. You're coming to the next Board of Health meeting. Did I tell you that?
So, all right, so do we have enough for a motion formulated there, or we have the various
allow,
special things? Okay.
You can say to allow the issuance of a 3-week provisional, or 21-day, however you want to say it.
21 day.
Yeah.
21-day provisional permit with the requirement of the applicant notifying the families of the hearing date, and that they are will be operating on a provisional permit with the permit expiring on whatever date. And that they apply for the required variances to the recreational day camp for children
Or
regulations.
how about apply for variances, because
Because
whether it's
Don't they-
required is questionable, right?
Oh, okay, to
Yeah,
apply for variances, just-
regarding,
okay.
yeah.
Septic, hand washing, and well.
Water, yeah.
Drinking water.
Yep.
Is septic the language we should use, or is it toileting or
Disposal,
disposal?
Okay.
gray water disposal. They shouldn't have any sewage
water.
disposal. The sewage should be the porta toilets, so gray water disposal.
But
Because if he's
the-
talk- well,
but the,
is he talking
the
about-
variance is for septic.
Okay, so he's
Because they
trying
don't
to say
have
that
it
they
septic,
don't,
so they're
then It
using-
would be
Yeah.
both. It would be
Yeah.
both for toiletry
Yeah.
as well as for hand washing.
So the actual regulations has septic.
Why don't we just say septic then,
Yeah.
because that covers
That's
both.
fine.
Yeah.
And then, subject to receipt of the fire department inspection, building occupancy permits, That's all I had.
Or satisfactory inspection, right?
And what, are we going to say
Completed.
anything about
Satisfactory.
the frequency of inspections, or no?
I think some of that can be assessed, like, it sounds like Ethan's language about the
Regular and
unannounced inspections, I think, is
Yeah.
in there, and I think
Yeah.
that, that may be something that as we have a period of public comment and kind of discussion, that we may identify this is what's most appropriate.
Right.
And kind of add more specificity there.
And then have a hearing on changing our fee structure to capture that.
Yeah, but that's not in this motion, is it?
No, no, no,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying that
Oh,
then,
okay.
then, oh, sorry, we can cover that. Later, with that input, maybe. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
It's a mouthful.
Listing, okay. And you had the building inspect.
Yep.
The building
as well, okay.
occupancy
And fire.
permits, yeah.
Okay. Would anyone like to move that?
So let me give it a shot. Feel free to weigh in. So I move that we issue a
Or you
provision.
can just move
No, you
what
can
she
just
said.
So moved.
Second. Yeah, I was like, why?
It's very scary to keep all of those things,
Yeah.
all the balls in the air there. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so Ethan did tell me he would call me tomorrow about the permit,
Okay.
so I will let him know.
And
all
you'll
of this-
let them know, too,
Should
about...
I ask Ethan to also be at the next meeting then, for
Yes.
this hearing?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay.
He's the most informed.
So, okay, so I think minutes is what we have left. Maybe the only thing, I
What's
hope.
it? So-
Oh, and then signing things, and then,
So I had several, they're sort of annoying and small, so I didn't know if it's
That's okay.
easier to,
You can either give it to me,
okay.
or just,
I think,
we can
I think it
read
might be
through.
easier to give it.
Yeah.
So there's one thing, though, that was repeated throughout, and so I wanted to correct
Yep.
it, which is the milligrams
Oh.
per liter. You have to
Okay.
put UG, not MG. So
Okay,
every
where
place
is
you
this?
said.
yep.
Starting where?
Micro, since micro and milli begin with
With
the
N.
same...
Oh, so
and
it's
so it's a
convention to
different...
put-
So
Yeah.
this is in
Where are we?
Abbey
Page-
Road.
Yeah, so
Page
every
three.
single one of
Discussion.
these milligrams needs to go to
Oh, goodness.
UG. So I said
Okay.
UG equals micrograms. That's-
Okay, so we're, the first one
I think I
is
caught them.
.884
Oh, actually, I
and 85.
Yeah.
This,
it's global, so you could just do
Okay.
is this in
Under
Word?
Yeah, yeah.
Prefer
Yeah, just do a
PPM,
global.
PPV?
And they should be what? UG?
UG per
Or-
liter.
Okay.
If it has the little row thing,
Yeah.
you know, that you
Yeah.
can get really fancy.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's-
But I think UG per liter works well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just had, just like, every once in a while, there was like a word missing.
Oh, that- yeah, that's what I
infiltrates
need.
Into the
Yep, wait a minute,
ground.
okay.
And then I think,
Wait a minute, let me
This-
get that in, where is that
I can
one?
just give you mine.
Oh, okay, okay.
The only one I want to check with Daryl and Matt is, when we're talking about the, Bob Murchison, he said, Mr. Murchison disputed the concept that there is any possibility that the VOC is in the ground, noting that the well is 1,000 feet deep and tested clean at the wellhead. I just added, comma, prior to the disinfecting treatment,
Yeah.
just to clarify.
Yeah, I think that was in his like,
Yeah.
that was clearly the context. And so
Right,
think
I
it's in-
just, I thought it would be good to make it
Yep.
explicit, and then, you know, and that was missing, to be provided, like, this was, the motion was amended because he talked about that he had those additional tests, but he hadn't provided them, both showing the levels of chloroform at or below 1 microgram for both units be provided. So I don't know if he sent those to you, I presume he did?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And then, this one, I had a question for you guys as well, actually Agent Oram. Lot 1, Green
I never
Lane.
been called agent, I like that, it's like 007.
Trask Inc. It's about the Green Lane. It said, Agent Orem reported that Mr. Stevens has requested additional percolation testing on this property as well as confirmation of soil morphology, groundwater in an area that has not been previously tested. Are we talking about like the hydrogeological conditions? I just wasn't clear on when you had groundwater and parens, if you were talking about like the groundwater table, like where the groundwater table is, or if we should just use something like catch-all.
Which number is that?
It's
This is
12.
12, like, as well as either confirmation of hydrogeological conditions. I didn't know if there was some kind of,
Well, we may see redox morphic results out there, the models, we call them.
right, so,
But at the same time, if we don't, they're required to put in monitor pipes to set those, so in November, we can go back out and check them when the groundwater season is allowed. So I think that's what we were trying to get to, and we're out of season anyway, so I think the monitor
groundwater
pipes...
conditions and soil morphology, or?
Oh, so you're questioning just what is the parenthetical
Yeah,
groundwater mean? I
kind of
think,
ambiguous to me.
right, the reason for even looking at the soil morphology is to determine
understand.
groundwater,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and how it
Okay.
fits together. So I think that
Okay,
was
I-
really
I might
just
be just
the
very-
reason for it as opposed to is it good for crops? and,
Yeah,
you know, that kind of
yeah,
thing.
anyway,
So-
I was being a little anal there, sorry. And I'm just missing a word here, he has to review, you just,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well, the agent reported that he
Has
to review new
Yeah,
information
just
received
to-
yesterday,
yeah.
yeah.
And if I can back up on that question, so typically if we find models, we don't require monitor pipes. In this case, we're going to require them even if we find models to confirm in November. That's what that was saying.
Right, so that's why I was saying like hydrogeological conditions, but that's maybe too techy, so.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
And then I was just
7,
clarifying on the whole next door Sherborn thing that we talked about. I said Ms. Camp agreed, because I agreed that there was misinformation, and stated that she has simply tried to insert facts into past discussions, because I want to make it really clear, since I have been on the Board of Health, I have not participated in Next Door Sherborn.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just clarify that I'm not going to be on an ongoing basis trying to be the board member voice
Voice,
of
yeah.
reason and, you know.
Okay.
I think that the internet abstains from voices of reason, and so we should welcome our community to be in the room to chat with us.
what is that word?
Into past discussions.
Oh, that's past, okay.
Yeah, I have really horrible handwriting. I should have been.
I was going to say, I can't comment. It's like, although we're now all electronic health records, so I'm now entirely legible.
Yeah, and this one, and
Page.
way back at the beginning on 4, stated that at the time of the septic, I think it said septic plan approval. I was getting kind of confused about this. Maybe Agent Warren, you can help on this.
What number is that?
Number 4.
Oh, you're way up there.
It's Farm Road. It said parish was present and stated that at the time of the septic approval, he was allowed to build the replacement house up to reflection. It's really the septic
septic
plan
plan,
approval.
yeah.
Because he's saying, I'm going to be delaying the
Yeah.
installation of the actual
Yeah.
septic.
Right.
Yeah.
Septic plan approval.
Yeah. Yep,
Those are my
all right.
very anal
Thank
intentions.
All right,
I love it.
so I will,
Sorry.
I will give you my track changes.
Okay.
Okay, so I had the UG, so that's good, don't have to do that.
Oh, so you have all those corrected?
Oh, she
on-
has it in red line, so even
I
better.
have, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
so-
no, I didn't make all the corrections, I just
Oh,
had a
okay.
little
Just
note
noted
about it,
it's
so
there.
you still
Oh,
need to do
okay.
that.
Okay.
How did you guys get that electronically?
I
Did you send it to me?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. See, it's so new, I'm not checking it. I went off the hard copy.
So tell me if
It might
this
have
is...
gone to your old one, or,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
because
don't
it was
know.
a while
There
ago.
was-
It was a
I think
couple
it
of
might have
weeks
been
ago. It was a while
before your
ago.
new one.
oh,
It
so
was
I probably
before-
don't
Oh,
have it.
yeah.
Okay,
So-
but going forward, you have my,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, on number 1, and I don't know if it's necessary to say this, but this was the discussion about Pine Hill School, and they had
Yeah, I
a
don't
hit,
have
and then 2 clean tests came we talked about, and this is a possible sentence at the end there of the first paragraph, the water supply operator for the school supply had performed maintenance on the system that was suspected to have caused the original detections. Just to, not that it was, why'd it happen, and then it was gone, and we don't care, but there seemed to have been a reason. Let's see. And then on number 2, I had a clarification. It said, Chair noted that Sherborn is a population with access to good medical care, which was really meant, which may also account for higher than expected detections. Okay, and that Sherborn is right on track with the expected incidences. Not right on track, yay, cancer.
Right. Even with great detection, you're not an outlier, which is good news.
Yeah. Let's see. And then in the next item, we're talking about reassigning or reaffirming folks. And we talked about 2 agents working on septic was partly anticipatory for upcoming 40Bs, and then I added in the 3rd agent has special expertises and preferences, just to not ignore our 3rd agent. Let's see. Under 5, when we're talking about flushing at Abbey Road, and he was talking about the amount of water, which I actually did some calculations, just as an aside. I recall 250,000 gallons being mentioned, but at kind of 5 gallons a minute, you'd be
doesn't add
pumping
up.
an awful long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I was using just
I wasn't sure
a
what the
rough
flow
rounded
rate,
number,
yeah.
and it's more like 1,400 gallons a day at that rate. So anyway, so there's a whole lot of flushing they might have been doing, but I don't know. Anyway, but he was said it wasn't necessarily wasting water as long as the water reinfiltrates the ground if done properly. If you put it onto a roadway and it runs down the road, then it's not going to reinfiltrate on that property, but, so that was the general gist. I had a clarification about, maybe it's just too much information, although about the 80 micrograms per liter applying to a group. It's not limited to chloroform, as that limit applies to a
I
group
thought
of
we
chemicals that
had that.
includes. Yeah, we do, but I just expanded it to say
Yeah, total triangle.
chloroform is just one of a group, so. And then down below, Matt, you had mentioned about just the whole idea that the chloroform was there because of this requirement. And then, but you couldn't draw a parallel to a public water supply, and I forget which one of you mentioned it, but it was the idea that because public water supplies have chlorinated compounds added due
Right.
to disinfection regimes.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay,
that's why they would
we blabbed a lot on it.
absolutely have a higher
That was important to say
standard.
that.
Yeah.
I think the point Bob was trying to make was the sort of belief that it didn't pose an undue risk, but I think we have to recognize that public water supply is fundamentally working with a different set of safety trade-offs than a private well system is.
Yeah.
And I think there's validity to both points, but we shouldn't confound it. Like,
Right.
airplanes go really fast, cars shouldn't go that fast.
And actually, the point of chlorine in public water supplies is that the chlorine endures, so at the plant that's supplying and treating, they chlorinate, and that chlorine survives as it travels through pipes for miles and miles and miles, which is why they use it. Otherwise, they could do ozonation or something. That would be less
Some do.
damaging, but ozonation you wouldn't do if it had to travel miles, because
Right.
it dissipates quickly, which is the beauty of it.
Right.
But
But also
it
not as
doesn't
effective.
endure
Right.
over long distances. So, so that's, yeah, it's just a whole other animal, and when you're talking about going from a few, 40 feet or 100 feet from your house, it shouldn't be needed. Then under 14, I just had a clarification here, commented that the change to an over 55 project makes it easier for the applicant to change two-bedroom units with less conflict with local bedroom count issues, because we've had that come up in the past about, you call it a two-bedroom, but it doesn't look like a two-bedroom on our regulations. But when it's 55 and over, it says they're two-bedroom units, done. That's what they're limited to. But then if the units do not sell as the 55 and over, then the project is left with an infrastructure that's not properly sized if it's redefined as general housing. So that edit. And then one other issue under 16, when we're talking about if the DEP soil evaluators went out, that that the board would need to confirm with DEP beforehand that the site information Sherborn requires would also be acquired and shared by DEP. So that, but, you know, we found another way around that, but that was, I just wanted to record that that was another complication of that method, is that we couldn't guarantee up front that we would accept it later if they didn't look at modeling or something like that. So, okay. So, this I can give to you. So, any other
Nothing for
edits?
me.
Okay. And do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I think, except for signing things, we're done, right? What do we need to sign? We need to sign the approved plan, and, yeah, warrant and payroll requires multiple signatures these
Requires a
days.
quorum, yeah.
So,
There's no
So-
issue with conflicts, you had no budding issues.
I only had that one for the
That's-
well, that
I know where you are, so
Yeah.
I don't know where Matt is, so I didn't know,
Okay.
because it's
Should I
funny,
just,
you
do you
started
want to sign
mentioning
them
your house. I
first,
said, wow,
Darrell,
that was
or
hers.
should I just pass them down?
does, I don't
You
know.
had
Doesn't
one of the
matter.
first
Yeah,
fastest
I just
ones.
need
And
a
yeah,
quorum
Yeah,
to
I
sign
know.
each.
Okay.
So if
That
you
was a
just
long
want
time
to pick a
ago, wasn't
line.
it? 15,
sign
20
works
years ago?
great.
And if you
It
want-
is, my
this
son is
the
16,
warrant that we paid the
and
fees.
we moved in
Okay.
when he was 4 months, so.
Perfect. So I can send my
Just
name
goes
here,
so
put
fast.
date
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So-
We did have to replace a
And then
boiler.
I'll explain each other.
So while we're signing, can I
It
close the
was like
meeting?
dying.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. you can-
okay,
That's like the only-
and we are adjourned,
and
we're just signing
They had
paperwork,
been
so,
shocking the well.
thank you.
With iron-reducing bacteria, so we actually had to put